Welcome back to another episode of the Mommy and Then Some podcast. As always, thank you for joining us. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how I wasn't happy being a stay-at-home mom. And if you can relate, this episode is for you. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, I'm your host, Naya, a stay-at-home mom of two. And in 2020, I had my first child. I wanted to create a community for moms to share together the ups and the downs of motherhood. And here we are, the Mommy and Then Some podcast. So again, let's just talk about me not being happy as a stay-at-home mom. And of course, I don't want to just only leave the floor open for me to express my struggles and my experiences. Remember, you can always email me, leave comments, DM me on my socials, and let me know your experience. Again, this is a community for all moms to join together so that we all know that we're not alone. And just keep in mind that I will have my notes sometimes because I can get a little distracted and be off topic. So if you see me peeking over at my notes, I do a video podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. If you hear me, announcing that's why, because I do a video podcast on YouTube. But so let's talk about it. Let's get right into it, mamas, because listen, I thought everything was going to be peaches and cream when I became a stay-at-home mom. I really did. And I don't know why, because I didn't know what I was doing. And a lot of the times new moms don't know what they're doing and they're just trying to wing it. They're trying to go about everyday life and figure it out. But some of them I've heard don't really have, that experience where they just don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen or so on and so forth. So the feelings that I felt when I became a stay-at-home mom was lonely, sad, depressed. And a lot of those feelings came from, number one, my family being 1,000 miles away. I had just moved to Florida, and I did express this in a previous episode, so you might want to go back and check the episode out. I'm not going to give the full story, but I just moved here, and then when COVID hit, I became pregnant, and then at the end of the year, I had my baby. So I didn't know anyone in Florida, and with that, again, I'm a very family-oriented person, so I kind of felt like I really didn't have many people to lean on. Even if I tried, it was COVID. So it wasn't like I can go out, try to make friends. Like, people were really on lockdown. The world really didn't know what was going on at that point. So I didn't know anyone, and I'm a outgoing person. I have my introverted ways, but I can be an extrovert. So that kind of makes it hard, especially when your spouse is working a lot. You can't really rely on that connection with your spouse. So much, I'll say that, because they're working, they're trying to provide for the family. So it's just you and the baby staring at each other all day long. Like, so yeah, what's up? What we got, what we got next? What's on the agenda now? And I didn't actually want to put myself out there again, just with it being that it was COVID. I'm trying to keep me and my baby safe, our entire family safe, because again, hubby still has to go out and work. So if he gets sick, then who's bringing in the bacon? And then sometimes I really can be that type of person that, I kind of like to stick to the people that I know. So I don't mind mingling and meeting new moms and new people, but sometimes it's like trying to create that new bond is a little hard for me because I'm used to who I'm used to. Sometimes we know that meeting new people, it just can be a little tricky. It can be a little weird because not everybody has the best intentions, right? So that was my biggest thing that I kind of really didn't want to put myself out there at first. I was being stubborn. I just wanted my family around. Very much so. And excuse me, guys, I'm having a little bit of a ticklish throat, so I'll have my cup here drinking some water. I'll try not to gulp too much in your ear, but give me a second. Now, let's get back into the feelings that I had. So, of course, I felt down and depressed and sad because my expectations versus reality weren't met as well. So let me explain. So when I say expectations were, again, I've explained this in a previous episode, but where I thought my spouse would be a little more involved. Number one, me and my spouse are a lot different. when it comes to family oriented things. So a lot of the things where I may be like, oh yes, family this, family that, he's really not much like that. And it took him a while to adjust to that. Not to say that he didn't want us as a family, but just the same way that it's taking me time to adjust to being a new mom, it's taking him time to adjust to be a new dad and having somebody around in a way 24/7, where he was really like a lone wolf type of person. He can really do well on his own. He likes to be on his own. And that didn't click again with a postpartum depressed mom, new baby in town. It's just like both of our feelings were clashing. We didn't really talk about much together because we were just getting the ropes. Like we were still trying to figure all of this out. So again, my expectation was that he would just be around more, be more hands on, and not work so much. Like clearly, that you have a family, so yeah, it's time to come home and deal with the family, right? Wrong. So reality again was that my spouse, especially, which I hear a lot of men are like this, but especially under stress or pressure, he works a lot. Number one, he has a mean work ethic, which I love about him because that's how we met. But that's an episode for another day. But he has to provide. He's going to put all his work, he's going to put all his all into work so that he can provide for his family, so that he, I guess, can stay focused on the plan at hand. A lot of the things we were not seeing eye to eye on. So that's big when you're not agreeing or seeing eye to eye with your spouse about how you want your family life to look per se, where he more so is focused on the money aspect of it all, and of course I'm focused on the family, house and home. And then in reality, we used to have a few discussions where it's weird because I used to feel like we really couldn't be on the same page because we're living two different lives in a way. So for instance, if he's going to work, that's where his mindset is at. And if I'm at home, that's where my mindset is at. I'm not thinking about money. I don't really care about you going to go get money. I want you here with us, and that's it. As we've grown into our relationship, I think we've come to terms a little more better. We've come to an agreement. We come to seeing eye to eye a little bit better. And of course, that comes with time. That comes with communication. Like when I tell you guys, we came a long way, mama. We came a long way. So that's why, just a lot of feelings was wrapped up inside this lonely, sad, and depressed. Again, I had postpartum on top of all of this. And a lot of moms that are going through postpartum depression don't, I feel like, know that in the moment. When they start coming out of it, or they start talking to their family and friends and their loved ones, they may start to hear it. They may start to maybe realize it. And, by then, hopefully that much damage isn't done. But postpartum is tough, again, because we don't even know what we're going through half the time. We got these mixed emotions and hormones spewing all over the place, along with still trying to take care of the responsibilities that we have to take care of every single day. So that was really hard. Like I was just so in a funk. I was not happy. I did not want to go outside with my son. Like there were times where my mother used to have to try to push me and say, like, which I'm grateful for, because again, I did say, let me just clarify. I did say that I didn't have any family down here. So gratefully enough, my mother came down here because she does do travel nursing when she wants. But she was able to come down here for a good 3 to 4 months, before my son was born. And I am so grateful for that. So during that time frame, again, she was just trying to get me to get up and move. There would be, of course, times where I hadn't showered, and she'll be like, okay, like I'm here. You better go take care of what you need to take care of. You can rest, or I'm here. So do this or do that. I was deep in postpartum depression, and it was just hard for me to see anything outside of that. I was just like, woe is me, period. So that leads me into my next topic about not being happy within self. So if you haven't watched my previous episode where I feel like I lost myself even more becoming a mom, but I lost myself before getting in my current relationship, before having a baby, there were certain things that I stopped doing. So I wasn't happy with myself. Like I just felt like, I don't know, God, I really felt like a bump on the log. I really felt so just disgusted. Like when I think back on it, there were times where I would go, honestly, maybe days without taking a shower. And it's so funny being on social media. You got to be careful about who you watch or what information you decide to take in, because I remember this one mom, and I still watch a little bit of her content, but this comment that she made about how some mothers be deep into postpartum depression where they don't wash their ass, and how could you, like she was basically slandering that. And I'm here to say that I get it 100% because I've been there. When some mothers go through things and struggle way worse than some other moms, I'm not discounting any mom situation, but there may be times where you don't get up and wash your ass. You don't get up and brush your teeth because you have a lot going on, especially when you don't have any support. So I'm assuming that maybe that mom during that time frame had support, and maybe that's why she didn't feel the way she felt. Again, I didn't have anything. So think about it. My mom left. My son was born in November. I really want to say my mom left around, let's call it January, maybe February. So then after that, yeah, my son is still maybe 2 or 3 months old, and I'm still trying to get the hang of things. Postpartum don't leave the next day after you have a baby. So I just felt disgusted with myself. Like I just didn't know where to go and how, especially, my hair just always looked crazy. So again, those types of things, they say when you look good, you feel good, and that's why I say, you guys, it's kind of, it gets me all riled up because that was really a tough time for me. And I just want you to know, mama, that you are not alone. Like, this is the community where you can talk about those things. I'm open to hearing and experiencing it through you. Let's experience it together because I've been there. Like, I was just really not happy with self. And that's kind of really just what I want to leave it at. Again, it's especially when I feel like when it starts with appearance and like hygiene and stuff, why would you feel good about yourself, Again, I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know how to focus on the things that maybe would make me happy, because at that point I felt like I didn't even know what made me happy anymore. So I was not happy with self. Like I didn't do anything for myself. Yeah, again, I wasn't doing any hobbies or not pointing to myself, which is my main, my biggest point. So with that, I constantly focused on what my partner was doing. So if I knew that my partner would get off at a certain time, and then he's been the supervisor manager position since we moved down, and actually no, not even supervisor, manager position since we moved down here in Florida, which manager positions can be very, strenuous, really. And laborious, I guess you can call it. And he would stay late. So sometimes, I would get in my head about him staying late. Maybe, for instance, if I knew that he was off of work, but he took a little bit longer to come home, I would, have those intrusive thoughts about different things that I may have thought was going on, and just constantly focus on what my partner was doing. Even if it was a day that he didn't have to work and he would leave the house without me and our son, just doing whatever, I would just constantly be like, oh, what you doing? Where you going? Why couldn't we go with you? And just be like, I feel like constantly nagging over my partner. And it really wasn't healthy, again, because I didn't have much focus on myself. After a while, I definitely, again, and it was not an easy thing. I think that for me, I had to really double down on what I liked and what I wanted. I feel like if I kept going down that path, and again, there's nothing perfect about our relationship at all, but I feel like we would have just kept driving each other away from each other, basically. Because if I'm constantly nagging him, and he's constantly feeling like I don't trust him, and so on and so forth, it wasn't really healthy. It wasn't really healthy. It had me to points where I did feel like I wanted to go through my spouse's phone, and sometimes I did. But I do feel like that if it has to get to that point that you feel like you don't trust your spouse that much, and you have to get there, something needs to change, or you guys may not need to be together. I mean, who am I? But I really just had to work on my perspective on things, basically. So I started to change the narrative. And again, this wasn't an easy thing for me. I would say, honestly, I just got better about changing my narrative. Let's call it maybe a year, not quite a year and a half yet, but maybe a year ago. Mind you, I'm on my second child now. My child is about to be 17 months. Okay. My oldest child will be 4 in November. So I took to content creation. I really had this idea in my head, of course, looking at social media, like I told you before. Excuse me, guys. Of course, looking at social media, I had this idea in my head about what I wanted, quote unquote, our social, excuse me, our social media life to look like. I wanted to get back to taking pictures. I thought I was going to be cute. I thought I was going to be this, and that. When it really didn't start off like that. Again, a lot of my clothes didn't fit. I don't have a lot of things because I wasn't pouring into myself. So it was still rocky in the beginning. But I just really started to try to document my life. Again, my space, my socials, my YouTube, my podcast is for moms to feel seen and heard no matter what. So I literally had to take a step back and just really start realizing what I liked. I bought me some skates so that maybe I could start skating again. I started going outside more, even though it's freaking hot in Florida. But I noticed that it would lighten the mood for me and my son, or even our family as a whole. I started trying to communicate better, or let me say, because I'm not a one person team, but we started trying to communicate better about the things that we did like, that we don't like, the things that we want to do, things that we don't want to do. So really, it was just like a mindset shift. Like, again, just had to change the perspective. But I really needed to start pouring into me and figuring out what I like to do. We started having conversations about my me time, basically, because he noticed that was a big thing where if I'm not getting my time in, because believe he gonna get his time in, then I'm frustrated, or we're fighting and we're arguing and just different things like that. So we started trying to give me some mommy time and fit that into the schedule. But yeah, I would say that if you're struggling with the same thing, and again, make sure you leave me comments. You can email me, whatever you need to do, DM me on socials. You have to change that mindset. You have to change your narrative. Only you can do that. Honestly, not even your spouse, because a lot of the times I felt like I was looking to my spouse to be happy. And he really couldn't do that for me. Like, he can't provide that happiness. Yeah, if he can get me this and get me that, but I'm not a super materialistic person. I'm not. So, okay, you get me this or get me that. Most of the time I want time. But given how our lifestyle is set up, i.e. not having a sitter, the only person in the house that is working is him, and so on and so forth. I mean, I can't get a lot of time. I get it. Yes, we could have done better with what we were doing or how we were utilizing our time. But a lot of the expectations versus reality, I think for the both of us, was where everything was going wrong. So again, mama, I would just say, look at some ways about how you can try to change your perspective. And maybe, I don't even want to say be grateful about the things that you have, because I don't think that you're not grateful. I think that, again, you need to look for stuff for you. You need to look at what makes this mama happy. Like, what makes me happy? I like to dance. I had stopped dancing for a while, for instance. Why? You know what I'm saying? And every time I put on music when I'm stressed, I feel a lot better afterwards. But I had even stopped dancing. I had stopped listening to music for a while. Like, I had stopped doing a lot of stuff. So I needed to focus on me and start pouring back into me with the things that I like to do. But mama, I just want you to know that you are not alone. Please burn that in your head. Burn it in your head. I want you to understand that you are loved, seen, and heard. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mommy and Then Some podcast. I'll catch you on the next episode.